Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name's Joshua Ross, and I am your host today for our really exciting webinar relating to the LSE Data Analytics Career Accelerator. And we're specifically focusing on the topic of building a data-powered career. So what are the opportunities? How does AI tie into this, and the path to move from plateauing to impact within data? Looking at the agenda for you all now, we've got a couple of areas that we're going to cover in terms of why this conversation now, the 90-day frame. We've got some use cases and tool choices to discuss, some important metrics that matter beyond training complete, and of course then some further information about the LSE Data Analytics Career Accelerator. Importantly, we'll have an open Q&A with our fantastic panel, who I'm going to introduce to you very shortly. Before we do that, there's a few housekeeping rules, and we've also got an audience poll question. So we'll bring that up now, and you'll see that all appear very shortly. And we're asking you, where are you on your data journey today? So are you a career changer? Are you an upskiller? Or are you simply just exploring? So fill that out as I introduce the team, the panel, and a couple of housekeeping rules before. There's two key ways to communicate here. Prakash, thank you. You've started the conversation in the chat with a hello. Feel free to do that in the chat, guys. But importantly, there's the Q&A function as well, which is where you need to post your questions. If you do accidentally post them in the chat function, we will ask you to post them in the Q&A so they don't get lost. There are two main things. We love interaction and engagement, so post your questions early, and you can upvote as well for other questions that you really like. Now, introducing our panel. Firstly, Nathan, welcome. If you could have a brief introduction of who you are.
Thanks, Josh. Hi, everyone. I'm Nathan Shoesmith. I'm a consultant at GC Insight, a social enterprise research and evaluation consultancy. And here at GC Insight, I'm the Insights and Analysis Lead for GrowthFlag, one of our data tools looking at growth potential across the UK economy. I don't initially come from a data background, but been developing in that over quite a few years now in economic development. So looking forward to talking to you all and joining the panel today.
Lovely to have you, Nathan. John, welcome.
Hi, Josh. Thanks. My name's John Minto. I am a graduate of the course. So I graduated last April, April 24. And I'm currently now a data analyst with GLL. We're a provider of leisure services. So yeah, just gone past my 1-year anniversary working with them. Happy to be here sharing my experiences so far.
Very excited to have you join us, John. And finally, Justine.
Hi, Joshua. Hi, everybody. My name's Justine Mooney. I am a career coach and one of the career coaching team at Fourth Rev. I've been with Fourth Rev for almost a year now, and I absolutely love it. I'm a career changer myself. In 2016, I retrained from a career in HR and recruitment and resourcing into a career coach, and that's what I do full time now, helping people who are our learners on our courses achieve their career ambitions. So it's not just an academic, it's not just learning the skills, it's also how you're going to use that to further your career. And it's great. I love it. Great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, looking forward to having you share your insights throughout, Justine. Now, poll results. All right, here they are. So 49% are career changes, which is really interesting. That aligns very much with the type of individual that gets a lot of value out of the Career Accelerator. We've got 17% upskillers as well. and 34% explorers. Great info there, and we'll make sure to accommodate for all of you throughout. Okay, so why data and why now? Right now, data isn't just a byproduct of business. It's the fuel driving decisions, innovation, and growth across every sector. And we know that the demand for people who can turn raw data numbers into clear insight has never been higher. So if we look at the statistic on the left here, so rapid growth in data analytics, according to the World Economic Forum, data analyst and scientist roles are projected to grow by over 30% by 2027. So that's making them one of, or some of the fastest growing jobs in our economy. When we look at the strong salary outlook, that demand shows up in salaries too. So from 37,000K for entry-level analyst roles to well into six figures for leadership roles, figures that continue to rise even in this challenging economic conditions. Now we look at the skills shortage, and there's a really significant skills gap. 72% of UK companies say they can't find the data talent they need, and it's costing our economy over 57 billion a year in lost productivity. That is a massive opportunity for everyone with the right skill set to take advantage of. So the need is clear, right? The roles are growing, the salaries are competitive, and the shortage is very much real. So let's hear how it looks from inside the industry. And I wanted to start with you, Nathan. From your vantage point in insights and analysis, how are you seeing the demand for data roles evolve in 2025? And secondly, what is driving the urgency for organizations to build data capability now?
Well, I think you put it really well there in your introduction around data being that fuel that drives decisions. I think sometimes it surprises me that even today in 2025, a lot of decisions that get made both in the private sector and the public sector often aren't actually led by that much data intelligence. And it's something myself and my team focuses on a lot, helping people make more informed decisions, using that data insight, building on what people know and what people have been doing from the past. But I think as technology develops and as increasingly more and more of this data becomes available, it's a really important opportunity and one that can't be missed to make those decisions based on that really robust data. So it's something that's increasingly critical, whatever decision that is, whether it's in business, whether it's in public sector, it's something that's really key. And in terms of the insight side of that, I think increasingly as organizations go on that journey of using data more, having people that can help others to understand that data is absolutely critical. And as well as those sort of core data skills in terms of analyzing the data, having people that can analyze the data but also communicate it in an effective way to other people is something that is really growing from what I've seen and is going to be ever more important as we move forward too.
Great, thanks for sharing those insights. And of course, John, Justine, and you, Nathan, if obviously the question isn't directed at you, but you've got some valuable insights, feel free to jump in and continue the conversation here. But now I wanted to ask you, John, from your perspective. So when you first looked at initially moving into data analytics, how did you see the opportunity? What was most appealing, I guess, and I guess since being in the industry, has it matched your expectations?
Yeah, I think it was something I wanted to pursue because of just the breadth of possibilities. I think, it's impossible to ignore how much of a kind of push towards being more data centric the business is going. So it was only natural to kind of land on something like that when I started researching how I wanted to change my career and how I wanted to kind of pursue the next stage. So yeah, I think that was it really. Just the availability of the research that I could do. Um, and I think, yeah, absolutely all these statistics show that it's only growing further, and with the sort of access to tools that make things quicker or easier to do this analysis, it's just going to incrementally increase. So yeah, I think it's matched really what I saw and what I conceived of when pushing towards this kind of data career. Yeah, all those opportunities are there, but obviously it has to come with the right structure and the right approach and the right person looking for that kind of role. So I think those things are important too. But yeah, I think it's been something that I think I was justified in my approach towards it.
Brilliant, thank you. And great to see some engagement in the Q&A. We've got a couple of questions already, so start adding them in there and upvoting for other people's questions as well if you'd like them to be prioritized. Moving on. So why data and why now? So here's what that demand looks like over time. You can see from this projection that the UK data market has increasing investment. We've got 23% job growth through to 2033, and that's faster than almost any other profession. And it's happening across all sectors, from finance to healthcare to retail. So for anyone thinking about a pivot or an upskill, this graph isn't just numbers, right? It's about your future job market and what that can look like. So what's changing inside these roles is just as important though. So with AI transforming how analysts work and the skills that set the best apart, let's take a bit of a closer look now on the next slide. And so AI, this is a question I certainly know from an enrollment side we get almost daily from leads, is around, will AI make analysts redundant? And we can see here that it isn't, but it's changing the shape of the role. So on the left, you can see the tasks AI now handle well. Things like cleaning messy data sets, producing routine reports, or running basic data extractions. These are important as a part of being an analyst, but they are repeatable and rules-based. On the right-hand side, we can see the skills that AI actually amplifies, things like strategic analysis, spotting patterns others miss, and turning insights into clear business recommendations. These high value skills are exactly where human judgment and business context make all the difference. And John and Nathan, you kind of referred to those skills a bit previously, and it's certainly something that we look at cover as a core outcome of the Data Analytics Career Accelerator. But so if you're wondering about the future of this career, it's about learning to work with AI as a co-pilot. So AI will free you from repetitive tasks so you can focus on work that moves the needle, ideally. And I'd like now to refer back to our panel and hear a little bit more about how this plays out in real organizations. So Nathan, I'm going to pass over to you again. And I'd love to know, given that you work closely with organizations navigating digital change, how has AI reshaped what analysts do day to day, and which parts of the role are becoming more valuable as a result?
I think both analysts and organizations we work with are still getting used to AI, and obviously AI is changing a lot over time. There's a lot of things that AI definitely helps with, and I think those ones on the slide there, certainly around the sort of data cleaning and some of that repetitive reporting, they're possible to do through AI and possible to do well in a way that sort of frees up our time to focus on those things around the strategic analysis, the creative insights, but ultimately how we communicate that with people in a way which means that they understand what the data is telling them, they understand how that sits in the context of their place or whatever their business context is, and ultimately helps them identify a way forwards. And previously, where we've had to spend a lot of time focusing on just actually getting the data and analyzing that data, there are tools, including AI, that can now help us to do that a lot more effectively so that we can spend more time communicating that. And I think it's that communication element and helping people understand the implications of that data, which is going to be increasingly important. And while AI can help with that and point out, as you mentioned, some of the gaps and things people might not notice, can be a really helpful idea generation tool, but actually bringing it all together and helping other humans to understand it and make the most out of it is something that will still be really important for analysts to be doing.
Good to know. And then that was very insightful. And so then again, John, your different perspective as well, right? From what you've experienced thus far, have you found that learning AI tools has helped shape your confidence or capabilities as an analyst?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's something I took through from my kind of learning process before becoming an analyst, where I would use generative chats um, to onboard ideas and kind of help with my educational journey. And I think that's carried over into the role itself, like on that kind of right-hand side of the graphic there, that if I'm starting a new project where I need to consider many factors of who's involved, stakeholders, different data issues I might know about. Having that kind of structure to soundboard off of is really useful to kind of straighten things in my own mind. And, it saves a lot of time where I don't need to necessarily book meetings with people straight away to discuss these things. I might be able to, kind of almost have a conversation with myself to really straighten everything out. And then from there, I can make that as streamlined as possible. So I think that side of things has really continued into the role, and it is definitely useful. But as much as it might seem like it's not magic. So it still relies on human processes, and all of those things on the left need to be checked and need to be put together in a robust way. I think Nathan, that was a word Nathan used before, like that kind of robust nature of stuff needs to be prevalent no matter what tool you're using, whether it's AI or anything else. So, and then on top of that, you need to be able to communicate that robustness is there in what you're providing. It's that kind of high stakes decision to invest in something like an overhaul in AI processes that you might want to put in is kind of, it's a high threshold to push towards for someone to really okay that, I think. So you need to really communicate that this is robust and this is going to help, and how that can benefit in that way. So I think it's a lot of different uses, but they all require careful consideration and learning how to use them in the best way, I think.
Great. Thank you. And we've got the hang of the Q&A. I can see questions coming through, which is great, and upvoting, so keep them rolling. I can see there's some great questions for our panelists later on. Moving on. So the forces driving your career change. Making a big career move isn't just about market data, it's personal. From hundreds of conversations with learners, what we've seen, what I've seen are the same four forces that come up over and over. So if we look at the top left here, we've got the push factor. That is the frustrations that make you want to leave where you are. You might be feeling stuck, undervalued, or watching your industry shift around you. When you've got pull factors, that's the attraction of something better, right? There's meaningful work, future-proof skills, and the chance to grow your earning potential. Then there's inertia. So the comfort of staying put, even when you know it's not fulfilling. And anxiety, the understandable fears about cost, time, age, or whether you'll succeed. I can see that in the Q&A that there's questions very much around those topics. But if you recognize yourself here, you're certainly not alone. These are the same feelings that past learners work through on their way into data analytics. John very much being one of those, and Justine supporting many of them throughout their journey. So John, for you, which of these forces felt strongest for you before you joined? And then how did you work through that?
It's quite hard to answer this because mine was a real total overhaul. Like, so pretty much all of them is the answer. But to pick one specifically, I think from the point where I decided, data was something I wanted to push into, perhaps that inertia was the one that maybe I could point to most. I started out, I was a ski instructor before. So for my ski school, I volunteered my sort of skills in that I'd picked up from taking kind of Coursera type courses or kind of free YouTube stuff and just kind of skills I taught myself. But that was great because it was already part of my part of the company I was in at the time, that I could just kind of take that on and show what I could do and use that as a kind of a place to launch from. But when it really came to finding a job outside of that, I tried for the summer after 20, oh God, a while ago in the past, a couple of years ago. So the period after the ski season finished, and I tried to kind of move into data as a role. I couldn't quite break into it and found that it was really difficult to be given the opportunity and it's obviously tough to break into. So that kind of inertia of not having enough support, not being in a place where I had that momentum to go into something that really was meaningful, I think what led me to this course specifically. As you can see, went well from there.
Certainly did. And a great example of the diversity of the backgrounds that our students have. Justine, you'll be very much aware and can talk to these, but as you said, John, from ski instructor to data analyst, right? So it's very much achievable for people coming from a range of different backgrounds, and that's what we see in the students that we speak to and enroll. But also we help you identify those transferable skills as well, that you may have developed in your career path that align with what you might need in data analytics. So Justine, from your experience, how do learners typically overcome these barriers once they start the Career Accelerator?
Oh, crikey, that's a question, isn't it? Because of course, everybody is completely different. We have got a pretty well tried and tested kind of method that we use now. It's pretty structured, but it also has a lot of flexibility in it. So we invite you when you first sign up to start in the orientation with reflecting on yourself. Who am I really? What do I really want? And those are two very, very difficult questions to answer. As if you think about them for a minute, you will know. So we offer some exercises and some tasks in the orientation that you can use to help you kind of surface what are your values? What is it that's really important to you? What are your drivers? Like, what is it that you want to get from your career? What really motivates you? What are your strengths? And of course, with that, what are your transferable skills? So we start to build a picture of who you are and what you're going to bring. And actually, when you start to think about yourself in this way, it does start to build some confidence and some momentum to move towards something else. we ask you to capture these in a coaching tracker, which you then share with your coach. So you're then allocated to a dedicated career coach. You have one coach throughout the whole of your journey. And they really, our job is to be by your side as you go through this journey and help you. The first thing that we do is have an intro call with you to meet each other, and then we have a goal setting session. So we help you get really clear on what it is that you want to get from this. So when you complete the accelerator, where do you want to be? What do you want to be different? What does that look like? And we start to help you build a picture of that and shape it. The tricky bit then is turning that goal, that dream, into reality. So we then help you build some milestones and then some action plans. And so we really break it down step by step. So you have a very clear plan of what you're going to do, when you're going to do it by. But it is completely unique to you. It depends what you're bringing with you. It depends what you want. You could be at any stage in your career. I have people who I'm working with at the minute who are 20 and some who are 54. So it's everything, and people who are unemployed, self-employed, employed, looking for a promotion. It completely depends on you. It's so unique, which is what makes the job interesting. And then partly you start then to build your confidence. You start to see that you're making progress. So this anxiety starts to diminish. We start to see the course tutors in particular, and the learning from the course is so good and it's so fast paced that you very quickly start to see progress. You start to see, I can do this, I am doing this. And so you kind of build your confidence. It gives you focus and clarity. It helps you to feel supported, and really it just helps you get really clear on what you want and how you're going to get it. And then we cheerlead and support you all the way through, so that, fingers crossed, you get it. We love it when you get your results. We really do.
Absolutely, we're very much geared as the core outcome of the program. It's not just to give you the skills; it's to see you achieve your intended career outcome, whatever that looks like. And we've got some statistics on that later, but very driven towards that. Okay, so there's kind of two proven paths into data analytics. So once you've decided to make a move, the next question is, what's the best route for you? So from working with hundreds of learners throughout the program, we see two common successful pathways. And this ties into our poll earlier, but our career changes. So people that are pivoting from a completely different field, like John, so they'll often move into analyst roles in around 6 months. They'll build a full portfolio of evidence throughout the program and a job search strategy working with their career coach as a part of the program. You've then got your upskillers. So those are individuals who are staying in the same industry, but very much have recognized or see the importance of the data analyst skill set for their progression or current role. So they apply their new skills immediately. They'll lead data projects. They aim to secure promotions, potentially increase scope, and of course, salary without leaving their organization. But of course, those opportunities aren't with their current employer. They also will look at very much progression elsewhere too. So both paths work. It's simply about which aligns with your goals and circumstances. So Justine, from your experience, what would you say is the typical timeline to see results for career changes versus upskillers?
I don't know if there's a typical timeline, Josh, because obviously everybody is different. People have different senses of urgency, different levels of focus, different things going on in their lives. So if you are working full time, have a young family, lots and lots of responsibilities, you might not have quite as much time to dedicate to it. I'm certainly working with people who are unemployed, people who are self-employed, people who are been in the same company for a long time and can see that promotion opportunity. I think it probably is quicker for an upskiller. And when I think about the people who I've worked with who are upskillers, they have tended to be able to see opportunities in their company. They know the network within the company. It's a bit easier to find the opportunity. And the focus and drive tends to be, I don't know, 4 to 5 months, something like that, from the start of the program to moving into that promotion role. For career changes, some people have been out of work for a long time. Maybe they've had a career break because of children, or they've had a sabbatical, or they just really want to completely shift into a new sector. And that can take a bit longer because there's the whole building of your new network, and deciding what you want to do, but also then building your presence in that network, building your personal brand and so on. But the people that I've worked with, typically it's been sort of 6 to 8 months when they've found that, made that move. But again, it really does depend on the person and what else is going on in their life. Sorry, that's a bit vague.
Yeah, and something that's really exciting for us that we've launched as a part of the program is the career milestone guarantee, which ties into this, Justine, in the sense that we're very much aware that everyone can be operating to different timelines, and so as a part of the program, you can access your career coaching for normally up to 12 months. So from the beginning of the program, so during the 6 months you're learning and 6 months after. But if you are yet to achieve your intended career outcome, then there is scope for a further 6 months of coaching and support to make sure that you do. So we're really confident in what we've built, and the support mechanisms allow you to achieve those goals. And the career milestone guarantee is us kind of putting our money where our mouth is to make sure that you do achieve that outcome as a part of completing. Nathan, based on your experience, what have you noticed about people entering data from different paths? So I mentioned this a little bit earlier around potential transferable skills. So whether that's a career change or an upskiller, what are some strengths that they bring that can help them have an impact quickly?
Well, that is the soft skills as well. So the technical skills are obviously really important for some of those specific analyst roles, but also the soft skills in terms of things like having an eye for detail, being able to spot patterns in the analysis, both in the sense of spotting something that doesn't look quite right or spotting a trend that you can then communicate with people. Having those strong communication skills when it comes to presenting it to other people, whether that's in written or verbal form, and also increasingly data visualization being a really important skill, and where people are able to do that from other areas of work or even of careers, that can be really helpful in moving them along that pathway further, I think.
Brilliant, that makes sense. Thanks for that, Nathan. Moving on, we've got a heap of questions to get through for the Q&A, but a couple of more slides that we'd like to take you through and a couple more questions for the panel. So skills and tools that you'll actually master throughout the program. So across the job market, there are clearly certain skills consistently that rise to the top of the employer wish list, should we say, for data roles. Python is the go-to language for analysis and automation. SQL underpins almost every data role, giving you the power to access and manipulate large data sets. And tools like Tableau turn complex analysis into clear, actionable stories for decision makers. And as we've spoken to, we're also seeing fast growth in AI literacy, knowing how to use AI co-pilots or to speed up routine tasks and sharpen insights is becoming a real differentiator. These are the skills that open doors, and they're exactly what you'll build hands-on in the LSE Data Analytics Career Accelerator. So the projects you complete and the digital portfolio of evidence that you build will be focused around these technical skills, as well as we've spoken, the human and soft skills. Back to you again, Nathan. Looking at the tools and the skills that are listed, which ones do you think are becoming critical for professionals who want to stay relevant and deliver meaningful outcomes over the next few years?
I think the AI side on the right there has to be up there, and I think having a sort of base knowledge of those particular languages is certainly important for some of those technical roles, but actually how you automate some of this, how you use those assistants to accelerate what you're doing, to spot some of the issues that might come up, but also to generate some of those ideas around what that analysis means and sort of support your thinking in helping to communicate that analysis to other people. I think that's going to be really important because gone are the days where we don't have things like ChatGPT and Copilot and we have to do everything manually. Now we can use those tools, and in order to progress and move forward both as individuals and organizations, we're going to have to really grasp those tools and work out how can we always be building better so that we can make more informed decisions and do so in an efficient way using the tools that we have at disposal. So while those languages are obviously important, I think using some of those other tools to help accelerate what we're doing is going to be absolutely key.
Great. Thanks again, Nathan. Insightful as always. So, John, just in terms of the skills that you're seeing on the screen here, which of these skills did you find yourself using first in your new role? And was there a moment after graduating when you realized, like, damn, I'm glad that I learnt this skill?
Yeah, I mean, for me, starting to use SQL daily was something that I hadn't really done before my role started. So, in getting the role, I could talk through my theory and understanding of SQL and how query languages can work, but actually using it and having a kind of messy data structure system and trying to actually work out how to use it took a bit longer. But in terms of something that I think really gave me an edge was the amount of Python that I'd done on the course really helped quite a lot to add some value to what I was doing in my role straight away. So one of the first tasks that was going around there, we have a kind of heat mapping report that we send out for different usage across different demographics and areas. So I kind of said, well, I've done quite a lot of Python. I can jump on that, and that was a bit. I'm not going to go as far as shock, but as a sort of surprise for my boss to be able to just delegate that straight away. And so I think that kind of added extra level of Python skills really kind of helped in those early stages. But as I was kind of getting used to the specifics of our context with SQL and various other kind of more simple tasks.
Great to hear. Yeah. Next slide. So very briefly here, looking at our real world learning in the employer project, which is the fourth and final project in the data analytics career accelerator. And so one of the biggest challenges, I guess, for people entering data roles is proving that they can apply their skills to real business problems. Employers want evidence that you can deliver outcomes with real data. And John spoke to that. He did a bit of self-paced learning at the beginning of his journey, but that alone is generally pretty hard to make sure that you can differentiate yourself to a prospective employer. And so that's why in the Career Accelerator, you work on an employer project. That's what the program culminates in with an industry partner. So you'll tackle a genuine business question. You'll apply the tools like Python, SQL, and Tableau to real data sets, and you'll present recommendations that a company could act on. So in courses 1, 2, and 3, you're learning all of the in-demand skills and technologies, putting them in the context of business scenarios and situations that we give you, but it culminates in the employer project. So giving you that added layer of confidence and experience that allows you to step into that first or that next role like John did and perform but also, again, going through that application or interview process or highlighting to management internally, it allows you to differentiate yourself through the way that you can showcase this portfolio. Moving along, I'm very conscious of us getting towards the Q&As. John, we've spoken a bit about your journey already, and I think some of the questions will cover that. So we'll continue on to the next slide, please. Importantly, we've spoken a little bit about the career support and the outcomes. Here are the genuine statistics. So 87.5% of learners achieved their desired career goal within 6 months of completing the Career Accelerator. Noting you've also got the fallback of the Career Milestone Guarantee now. 21.9% is the average salary increase reported by graduates from the same survey. How do we do this? It's really holistic. There's a question that we'll get to in the Q&A around, say, an individual that's deciding to choose a master's or the Career Accelerator. We'll get to that, but this slide is really important in understanding the holistic approach and support that you'll receive throughout the Career Accelerator, which does differ to more traditional learning pathways like a master's. There's pros and cons for both, obviously, but you've got the one-to-one career coaching, which we've spoken about and will continue to do so. Your success manager, who's dedicated support to keep your studies on track, the portfolio of evidence and the real project-based learning. And don't forget the networking opportunities. Being a learner on an LSE program, the size of the cohorts that we see in this program, ranging between 100 to 150. The low-hanging fruit in terms of networking opportunities is to start engaging with your peers throughout. Whilst we are fully remote, there's a lot of opportunity to engage and interact throughout, and you'll build some good bonds there. I can see John's nodding, so he agrees on that, which is good. Moving along. These are some common concerns and honest answers. Again, these are aligning with the questions we've got in the Q&A. So we'll move along and we'll address these throughout. And before we do that, I see, Sam, you've posted a link to the brochure in the chat. So if you haven't even downloaded the brochure, that's your first step. If you have, you're receiving emails and content from us, but you haven't spoken to your dedicated enrollment advisor, there'll be a link to book a call there. Ask questions, you get personalized guidance in 10 minutes. We're very focused in these calls about understanding your why. What is it that you want to achieve? What's driving you? We spoke about the push, the pull, the inertia. Those are all the things that we'll unpack before then understanding if the program aligns with your intended outcomes. We can importantly as well discuss flexible payment options as well. We've got a range of those available, and our September exclusive. So this is the Data Advantage package. So if you enroll in September, our next intake starts mid-October. So if you enroll in September, you'll access some additional offerings. An exclusive data pitch clinic workshop that you'll be able to attend. You'll be able to start your one-to-one career coaching before the program, which is really important if you want to start to lay out a bit of a roadmap and understand what your goal is clearly. And you can connect early with alumni who are already working in data. So these are limited packages. There'll be limited placements available. And importantly, with the enrollments that we're seeing for October already, applying in September is probably a good idea to avoid disappointment with missing out on October. Let's get to the questions. So Q&A, let's go. I can talk to this a little bit and then just briefly, Justine, in your experience as well, but there's a question here around what is the age distribution of participants in the program. In terms of the data that we've historically had, the average age is around 35. So we've got people in their 50s, all the way down to their 20s in the program. But anything additional you'd like to add to that, Justine?
I think my experience is, I think my youngest learner at the minute that I'm working with is probably 21, and I'm definitely working with a gentleman who is 54. There are different challenges with being at both ends of the kind of age spectrum. in terms of transferable skills. But if you are at the older end of that spectrum, we do really try to maximize what those transferable skills are, particularly the softer skills around communication, leadership, those kind of things. So whoever you are, it's so unique to you, isn't it? Your journey is so unique to you. I don't personally think it matters. I think there's pros and cons to the whole age spectrum, but yeah.
Yeah, and that ties into a question from Mark that got a lot of attention, which was around his point that he's 50 years old and he's finding it increasingly hard to navigate his way through through the changing economy. He's currently without work. He's got some Python and analysis skills, but acquired informally. So what is, Justin, I guess a bit of a question for you, and we can't go into all of the detail that we'd like, but what would your honest view be on the extent to which this course might help him?
So certainly in the building of the skills and the understanding of the current trends and impact of what, the upskilling of it for sure, but also with the coaching support, we do really help you to rebuild your CV and rebuild your LinkedIn profile and work your network. So it's about not just what you know, but also how you use it. And we definitely help with that. We help people every day with that. Don't know if that answers.
Yeah, I mean, Elodie Hudson, who you'll see is all over our YouTube. Elodie's now a part of the program in a support role, academic support role. Great story, Mark, but she was 50 when she completed the program, and I think she's had 2, maybe even 3 promotions since completing, and she transferred across from being a teacher into data. So Sam I'm sure she'll post a link to the YouTube in there, but have a watch about her story. It can certainly be achieved. Very confident we can support someone like yourself, but important to book a time with your EA so we can learn more. Continue, please, everyone, to upvote. There's got a range of questions, so I'm just looking at the ones that have got the most attention. This one is for John. John, do you recall how many hours of study you had to do weekly? And how did you manage this with a full-time job if you were working full-time alongside the study?
Yeah, so I had kind of 2 periods during the course. The first, what would it have been? About 8 to 10 weeks or so, up to the kind of the first main project. I was working part-time, and then traveled for my ski job, and where I was working full-time during the day as a ski instructor on the mountain, and then just studying in the evening, or days off wherever I could. So, yeah, it was tricky in the period with kind of full-time work, but luckily for me, they're obviously quite different, or very different things to be doing. So mentally, I could keep refreshed, I think, based on one being kind of outdoors and active, and the other being on my computer. So I think, yeah, it was difficult but manageable, and I think the advice of around 25 hours a week was about on the mark, I think. Obviously a lot more when an assignment was coming in, I think. And then a bit less when I was just kind of going through some of the content. So yeah, I mean it's something that I worked quite hard with my success manager to structure the time to fit it in. So that was a really useful kind of process to go through as well. Having someone to kind of help you manage that time worked for me quite well.
It's a bit of short-term pain for long-term gain. I mean, a lot of our students are working full-time or potentially part-time along this, but it's designed for full-time workers. So everyone's circumstances are different, but it shouldn't be a barrier. Over 6 months goes pretty quickly, and if you utilize and lean on the support that's provided in the program, as John's mentioned, it is very much achievable. And strangely, some of the busiest people we've seen come into the program, one of their strengths has been time management, and they've been able to cope throughout. So it's yeah, it's firstly about taking that first step, and you'll you'll learn along the way pretty quickly how to incorporate the study around your other commitments. But the reward's there if you can complete. We've got a question here. So does the program help with placements or internships in terms of the knowledge that we acquire using this course? I mean, I'll answer this quickly. Absolutely. If you work with your career coach and you're at the very early stages of your career and internships is something that aligns with what you need, then for sure, but we'd be geared towards, for most individuals, looking at paid roles. But we work towards whatever your unique goals are, but most certainly placements, internships, and of course, full-time employment and progression as well. There's a question around career changes. So as career changes, we'd be starting again, which may also mean a smaller salary, at least to start with. Realistically, how fast can one grow in an analyst role when aiming to get back to the salary we had before the change? I feel like all three of you really would have some insight on this. Even I do, but we don't need to hear from me. Justine, what are your initial thoughts? We'll do a quick answer from all of you.
Well, obviously, it depends what salary you're on at the moment and what you're trying to get back to. It depends what sector you want to be working in and how well you already know that sector and have some transferable knowledge that you can bring across. Yeah, and some of it depends on location and where you are and where you want to be working. So there's an awful lot of variable factors. But if you have it as your goal, then that's what you build a plan around, and that's what you work towards. So if that's the important thing, then that's what we have a plan for.
And don't again understate the transferable skills that you may already have in your career, with means that you don't have to always take a step back. You might identify roles that will blend both. And so not every career changer at all in our program is going backwards. Nathan, John, anything else you want to add to that? Nathan's good.
Maybe just quickly, from my perspective, it was a little different because I was coming from a job that wasn't especially well paid, like really fulfilling, and I love my job, but for me, it wasn't necessarily the same sacrifice, I think. So for me, it was just about building the right opportunity rather than taking a hit in that sense. But from what I've seen since being in the role, as soon as you are in a position, the skills you learn from quickly adapting, building new things, and progressing quickly certainly give me the feeling that I've got an opportunity to grow instantly in this role, and that's been communicated to me as well. So, yeah, despite me not taking that as a sacrifice initially, I think the fact remains that it's still easy to progress quickly.
Yeah, we want to set you up for the foundation of not only if you're a changer entering the industry or the role, but it's seeing that rapid career growth that can occur, permitting that you have the right experience and foundational skills.
Josh,
Thanks, John.
Josh, could I just add that this isn't a job accelerator, it's a career accelerator. So it's not just that first role.
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. What that career outcome looks like for you can be vastly different for everyone. It's a very good point, Justine. How long will we have access to the course? You'll have access for 12 months from the time that you start. You'll have access to the content for a full 12 months. So even after completing, you can go back and revisit. Questions? Continue to upvote, team. John, how difficult did you find it to land your role as a data analyst? And what was kind of one thing that you felt the course set you apart from people you were competing with?
Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy task. I'm sure no one would think it is, but yeah, it's something that is quite hard to reflect on as well, because there's an element where I feel like I'm just really lucky that I got the role, but really it's luck that was sort of planned for and executed. So it's kind of from two angles. It does feel that way, but I put myself in the position where I picked up the luck, if that makes sense. So, I sent the email, I spoke to the person who's friend of a friend and all this sort of stuff from, every kind of application you can do, from just clicking on a LinkedIn advert to speaking with your uncle, whatever. Like I kind of went through it and tried to find myself and push myself into places where I wouldn't expect to. And then I felt like I got a lucky break. So, you can think about it in different ways, I guess. But yeah, for me, it was all about speaking with my career coach and making sure I had a plan to um, push into different sectors and kind of, yeah, create something where I could find an opportunity that suited me. And the luck came from just being the right person for the right job. So we've got quite a small team, so my character and my experience and my skills just slotted right into the team, for which I applied for the role for at the right time. So yeah, the difficulty, it can feel difficult when it's not the right role, because despite however much you might want it, it didn't quite work or didn't quite fit, or whatever the hiring manager thinks. And you can kind of blame that on various different things that you might not always have the information for. But yeah, since being in the role and talking to my boss and finding out kind of why he hired me, not that I asked him directly that, but kind of sensing how that kind of came about, I noticed that it was just the right timing, the right place, the right person kind of thing.
Yeah. Great. So we've got about 4 minutes left for the panel. I'm going to cherry pick the questions that I think are most useful for the panel to answer. The remaining questions I can hang around for another 5 minutes or so and answer the remaining questions that are more kind of program specific. Nathan, one for you. We've spoken about this a bit, so we can kind of summarize again for this individual that may have missed, but what are the types of transferable skills that can be viewed upon positively?
Yeah, so I think we've touched upon that quite a bit, but yeah, I think key ones being around communication, sort of having an eye for detail, spotting trends in things. I think one thing which I didn't mention, but I maybe alluded to, was just being curious and always wanting to learn something new. And there will definitely be things that cross over here with it, accelerator involvement. But yeah, being curious about what data is telling you, what some of the patterns and trends are. If you've been curious about things in a different role, that's something that you can translate quite easily into data a lot of the time, and that's something that's really valuable.
Thanks for summarizing, Nathan. Now, I referred to this question before, which was aside of the difference in the duration, what are the advantages of this program in comparison to, say, a master's in data analytics? So the master's title has a higher recognition, according to this individual, and is understandable for a potential employer. The certificate of completion, even with the LSE on it, has certainly less credibility than the master's title. Or do you see it differently? I certainly see it differently. I'd like to ask the panel, because again, it ties into what's important for you as the individual and what you think is going to give you the best opportunity to not only firstly get interviews, but then succeed in interviews, or progress with your current employer, but then importantly perform in the role. So that's a lot bigger than just what the certificate is or the level of the certificate is. A master's is a great achievement, and there's certainly a lot of value to it. But John, Justine, anything else to add, I guess, around the holistic approach to the career accelerator compared to, say, a traditional master's? Was there any reason? Oh, go ahead, Justine.
I can kind of talk to the fact that as you go through the course, you complete different assignments that have a practical application. So it's very practical. and you can then use those assignments to build up your portfolio. So they become part of your evidence of not just what you can do, but also how you specifically do it and how you approach it. So people who are looking to employ you can see how you think through a problem. So I think for me, it's the real practical application, and also it's a 6-month program. So, you know, you learn very quickly in a very short space of time. You really do feel the upskill, which builds your confidence. But I think it's really practically applicable to the workplace. It's just really current, because we're forever refreshing the content, aren't we? Because things are just changing so quickly. So what this cohort will learn will be slightly different to what the previous cohorts have learned, for sure. So it's really up to date, it's really current, and it's really practical, is what I'd say.
Yeah, from me, I'd definitely echo that. I was going to say something similar, but I think if it were me, I would get a little bit lost in the technical skills if I had gone and done a master's like straight away. You know, there's so many things to learn that once you've learned something, it's very quick to forget it. Like it can't just be me that feels that way, you know. You learn some Python libraries and you build a script, whatever, looks great. A week later, I'm like, what was that again? What did I do there? So yeah, Justine's right. The fact that it's all based around projects and everything, every skill that you learn is just immediately applied, that made it sit so much better for me. And yeah, it gave me a chance to be able to talk about those skills in context to people in like a job interview, for example. I could speak about exactly what I did for the Bank of England, had that name recognition with it as well, and yeah, could really kind of point to moments where I made decisions that are just immediately replicable in the role. So like Justine said, you know, it's yeah, it's just totally related to practical application of the skills. So yeah, if that suits you and that's what you need, then yeah, for me it's a much better choice. But obviously, if you're in a different context and you have some background in this area already, and you just want to get some more research-based skills and that kind of thing, that'll be right for you too. But yeah, I think for a lot of contexts, this accelerator really kind of hits home.
Yeah, and it's important to note we successfully launched this year a formal pathway to a postgraduate certificate. So anyone that completes the 6-month career accelerator with an average grade of 65% or above can qualify to apply for a further academic capstone, just more research based, with the LSE. And if you do that, you graduate with a formal postgraduate certificate from the LSE. So there is now that pathway as well to
To add that, is
explore.
that something I just recently got word that I graduated on. So that was good news to hear.
Exactly.
Yeah, so managed to pass that with a distinction, so I was pretty happy with that too.
Bravo. See, John's done it all. And I think the career accelerator is good again in terms of the speed to impact it can have on what your desired outcome is from a career standpoint. And once you're in there and you're learning a bit more and you're in the industry, then if you want to do that more formal further studies, then you've got that opportunity. It doesn't have to be straight away either. Very, very conscious of time, very appreciative of the hour that you've dedicated for us. I've got one more question before we very quickly let you go. And the question is, what kind of data or transformation roles do people qualify for typically after this course? And then you mentioned the skills and the tools wish list for data roles. So, John, if you had any memory of like an example of a typical course assignment or areas of focus that helped you with this. So, Justine, I don't know in your experience, and either Nathan, like the types of, I mean, if we're talking about the Career Accelerator specifically, Justine, the types of roles that people have moved into.
Just off the top of my head, I know that one of the people I've been working with is now a business intelligence insight analyst. Another is a lead data analyst, and another is a sustainability reporting lead. So there's lots of different job titles.
Yeah, Yeah. Well,
It's
again,
really
depends on
varied. Yeah.
depends on your background in the industry. There's lots of different titles for roles that cover some similar things. So,
Yeah.
and then just John, finally, before we let you go, is there an example of an assignment that comes to mind that can kind of showcase the practicality of the program?
I think that there was quite a good link to how different departments in a business might talk to each other, like marketing and sales and different things like that. So there was one for a games company, I think. I can't remember the exact title really, but it was sort of linking um, sales performance and marketing efforts, and that's something that you, you wouldn't perhaps get in a lot of practical examples you might see online, I don't think. So, yeah, having something where I could show like I've made this much impact, or I've demonstrated where I would make this much impact for this department based on the other department, was quite a valuable one that I've seen be very similar to what I'm doing now.
Brilliant. Good way to end. I'll, as I said, hang around with some additional questions that I can answer. But Nathan, Justine, John, again, really insightful, very much appreciated the time that you've dedicated. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Josh. See you guys.
Okay, so we'll continue going, team. I know there's still a number of participants on here waiting for responses to these questions. So we've got another 5 minutes or so that we can dedicate to answering the remaining questions. Please remember, a lot of these questions here are around the program, and your enrollment advisor can talk to you about these. So you can click the link and book a time and have a conversation, and they'll answer these in great detail and understand your circumstances first. So don't be afraid. We're all here to support, and the team love learning more about your circumstances. So there's a question here: will the course be recognized internationally? And what are the relevant tools that we taught throughout the course? So the tools were listed earlier on, and we'll be sending a recording and you can have a look to see all of the detail of what's taught. And again, if you're in our system and you've downloaded the brochure, we can send you the course outlines so you can see what's covered. But it covers all of the in-demand technical skills and all of the human soft skills that accompany that to give yourself the best opportunity to perform in a role or progress in your current career. The course is internationally recognized. I mean, it's an LSE certificate. It's like any other LSE online program. So they're a top 30 university in the world. So depending on where you're looking to relocate to, if UK universities are viewed fondly, be very confident that the LSE would be at one of the top of those lists. How intense is the course, and how confident can one be after taking the course? John spoke to about 20 to 25 hours of study per week on average. We'd recommend around 20 hours. That's 6 months. So again, short-term pain for long-term gain. You've got a range of support networks available to you. So, you watch a little bit less Netflix. You get buy-in from your partners or family if you need, just for those additional few hours of study that you'll be doing each day to see that reward. But it is intense, but it's designed with the flexibility and the support in mind for working professionals. And that's why we've had hundreds upon hundreds of graduates and successful graduates who have been working full-time alongside the study. Your EA can have a chat to you about your circumstances specifically and give you an honest answer about if it's manageable for you or not. Do I need to purchase or subscribe to SQL, Python, or anything else? No, you need to have access to Excel. Everything else will be provided to you as a part of the course fees. Mark has asked, how does the course differ from other career accelerators that Fourth Rev are involved in? Well, the content differs and the university partner as well. So what LSE's expertise is in this instance, it's data analytics. But all of Fourth Rev's career accelerators follow the same model and approach in terms of the support, the structure, the intended outcomes, all of those things. So it's about then what content would align with your ideal goal or outcome as a part of completing. How much interaction is there with other peers on the course that is necessary to complete the course? Are you able to give an example of the types of course-related activities you perform with other course attendees? You've got weekly live sessions that are optional but encouraged to attend. There's 2 per week that run for an hour each. They're both at lunchtime. So you'll engage with your peers naturally through that. You've got a whole student community where you can post questions. So if you're unsure of something and you're not in a live session, you can post the questions. And what you see is you'll see a lot of peer-to-peer support that occurs. And our course facilitators will, of course, the academic support will come in over the top with the right response as well. But in terms of necessary engagement with your peers, it's really in the employer project at the end. So the final 6 weeks, that's group-based. But if you've networked effectively and been really engaged throughout the first 4.5 months, by the time you get to the employer project, you'll know the people or some of the people that you'll be completing the project with. What percentage is theory, in-person learning, self-learning, or coaching? There's no in-person learning. It's fully remote, the program, but it's 2/3 practical, 1/3 theoretical backing or underpinning. So again, we speak about the difference, say, between a master's and this is that we would, for lack of a better term, trim the fat of the theory that's probably not necessary. We keep the required important theory and then focus on the practical side of it. Outside of the 2 live sessions per week, so that's up to 2 hours per week that we encourage you to attend, but again are optional, the rest of the content is engaging and interactive, but self-paced. So the goal is that you're working towards meeting the deadlines for your 4 projects, which occur every 6 weeks. So 1 project due every, say, 6 weeks, 20 hours of study per week with those optional live sessions as well. Career coaching, any other support, you look at your coach's calendar and you book a time that is appropriate for you. There's a question, I would like to know if the certificate is for data analytics at the end of the course will be issued by the LSE. Yes, it's issued by the LSE. Like any other LSE online program, Fourth Rev is not listed on that. And secondary to this, there was a question around, is it data analytics and AI? AI has been incorporated into some master classes. So there's an AI learning track that accompanies the core content. These are live sessions so that we can keep up with the pace of change that's occurring in AI. So those vary per intake depending on what's relevant and occurring in AI at the time for data analytics. I'm trying my best to get through all these guys, but we're going to have to jump off very shortly. For the ones that we miss, again, your EA will be able to support via email or certainly booking a time. Next question. So I've got 2 or 3 more I can answer. Is there a gauge as you progress through the course so you can see if you are ahead at or behind the target that you need to be complete at each module successfully? This would be useful to help give an idea of how much pressure we need to exert to achieve success. Yeah, you've got weekly tasks and goals that you ideally need to complete. So they're really your indicators. And the ideal student per se would be completing each week's content on time. But life gets in the way and things can ebb and flow. So don't be too hard on yourself if you fall behind a little bit or you get ahead. If you are struggling, utilize the support, communicate clearly, and we'll help you as best as possible. Second last question. So how easy can it be for someone without knowledge of Python and other IT skills And how will the course help me grow into data analytics? Well, we've discussed in detail that the whole intent is to, if you're the profile of someone that has no prior knowledge in data, it's to take you from little knowledge to job ready to enter into a data role. We have, of each cohort, we would have a number of people that don't meet our standard entry criteria and complete an aptitude test. So that's the pathway for the people that have little to no knowledge. And if you're successful in that, you're like any other learner. And we've got a range of great career outcomes of people that have come from a non-data background. John himself was a ski instructor. And if you listen to how coherent and brilliant he was about being able to describe his experiences, you can see how much of an impact the program has had on him. Is this course purely online? Everything is online. There's live sessions. There's no on campus as a part of this program. People have caught up informally, done study groups and that sort of thing if you want to. It's not a requirement of the program, though. Everything is structured to be online and digital. Networking opportunities, the final question. What kind of networking opportunities are available during the course? There's a range. I mean, again, you've got a cohort size of 100 to 150 people. You've got a student community that you can start interacting with your peers immediately with once you start the program. As a reminder, our incentive for September, our package that we have for people that enroll in September, you can start accessing alumni networks prior to the start of the program. So lots of great opportunities, very diverse backgrounds of the standard of LSE candidates. Yeah, your low-hanging fruit is to network with your peers. We've had people land jobs as a part of networking with peers. We've had people get hired from other people. Yeah, I'd be doing that. It's free networking, and your career coaches would be encouraging you with that as well. Whew, I tried. I'm sorry, there's a few remaining questions, but we'll need to wrap up here. I appreciate everyone that hung around for the additional 15 minutes or so. Again, broken record, book a time, reach out to the rest of the team. Happy to chat. I'm really looking forward to see some familiar names potentially if you do look to progress and enroll for the upcoming intake. Get rolling on that. Limited placements and as usual, a lot of interest. Thank you, everyone, and see you next time.